Rather lads, welcome back to the Cossy Arsenal podcast. My name is Cossy. Welcome back to brand new video. This is the latest Arsenal news and transfer news as well. Arsenal are trying to finalize the Ricardo Calafiori deal. Two clubs have come in to hijack that deal. Tottenham and Newcastle. However, according to Fabrizio Romano, the player is 100% sold onto that Arsenal move, and that won't happen. We'll be talking about ESR because Fulham are coming back with a new offer around £36 million, and Arsenal want to sell him for the right price. The player wants to stay, so it looks like we're going to have a bit of discussion between ESR, Arsenal, and Fulham in the coming days. Mikel Moreno has rejected Arsenal and he said he wants to stay in Spain. Despite the fact that Mikel Arteta called him, they talked, they had conversations. He's gonna stay at, he's gonna stay at Real Sociedad in Spain. And we'll talk about Saka's performance at the Euros against Switzerland as he solved the problem that Gareth Southgate had in that game. If it's not for Saka's wonder goal, England are out. And of course, we'll also talk about Gabriel Martinelli and Gabriel Magalhaes. Brazil are out of the Copa America, on shootouts to Uruguay. It was a beautiful game, but eventually our boys will be back home, and that means that they will be ready for the new season. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel as well, and let's get into it. So let's start off with that big story on Fabrizio Romano's timeline, confirming that Tottenham and Newcastle are the latest clubs to try and hijack the deal for Ricardo Calafiori to Arsenal. Now, of course, like I said before, when clubs get to know the price and get to know the conditions of the deal, especially when you've done a lot of groundwork, the other clubs don't have to do a lot of groundwork. What happens is they come in and they try to offer what you have offered for the player. However, Ricardo Calafiori has rejected both Tottenham and Newcastle. He's sold onto the Arsenal move. He's 100% convinced that he's going to Arsenal, and also Arsenal are 100% in control of this deal. Fabrizio says that final talks will continue starting on Monday, and probably Monday, Tuesday, we will get to know the final decision on that one. Now, the problem here in terms of the money, it's not about how much Arsenal want to pay or how much Arsenal are required to pay. It's about how much are we going to pay in terms of installments? So how much do we pay initially? How much do we pay in the second phase? And how much do we pay in the final phase? But the problem is not about the money. The problem is about the structure. And I think Arsenal have a very, very difficult time discussing structures with a couple of teams. Remember West Ham last summer when we were trying to agree structure with them for Declan Rice. Arsenal 100% sure wanted to pay 105 million, but we wanted to pay around 70 million earlier on or 60 million earlier on, and then later we would go on to pay the balance. Now that is what clubs don't want. Clubs want a lot of the money to be paid up front. Arsenal's structure and Arsenal's way of doing business, we don't want to pay a lot of the money up front. We want to pay a little bit up front, and then the rest of the money comes in the later stages of the deal or even in add-ons. But I think this one is a deal, like I said before, I would say it's a 9 out of 10 done deal. All clubs are walking away. Chelsea have even signed a defender from Basel. That shows you that Chelsea are out, Juventus are out, Bayer Leverkusen are out, PSG are out. The other two teams that came in later, Tottenham and Newcastle, I think I do respect Newcastle because they have a very big pond that they can fish from money. But I don't see Calafiori choosing Newcastle over Arsenal. Newcastle don't even have UEFA Champions League football. With Tottenham Hotspur, I mean, there's a conversation to be had with Tottenham. They have a new manager, they have a new project, but do I see him go to Tottenham over Arsenal? Still not. So probably because these clubs had known what the structure is and how much the deal was going to cost, they thought they would come in and hijack the deal, take the player without doing a lot of work. That happens a lot of the time. Chelsea have done it, to Arsenal during the Juan Mata deal. You agree everything, you put in the hard work, and Chelsea just come in and they just pay because you've done the negotiation for them. Again, they did it for Mikhailo Modric. They came in, they knew what Arsenal wanted to do, and Arsenal what Arsenal didn't want to do, and they just raised that offer a little bit, and eventually they got the player. But I don't think this is the same. I think this is very different. I think at this point in time, I do not see in any way, shape, or form this deal being hijacked, unless it's a significant offer from a club like Bayern, Madrid. Maybe I don't see this one being hijacked. if the likes of Juventus have decided to pull out, if the likes of Bayer Leverkusen have decided to pull out, and PSG, that shows you that all clubs feel Arsenal have done good groundwork. They have run away with this deal. So Newcastle, Tottenham, however much I like to respect them, I don't think this is the kind of deal they would hijack, and they would hijack successfully. Arsenal 100% in control. Final talks continue on Monday and Tuesday to see whether we can get that deal done within the next 48 hours. Now let's talk about Emil Smith-Rowe, because Fulham are not taking no for an answer on ESR unless Arsenal don't want to sell. Now, the latest on this story comes in from Relactivo, who can confirm that Arsenal are going to receive a bid from Fulham for £36 million. They can also confirm that Fulham are 100% going to try to get Emil Smith-Rowe this summer if Arsenal are willing to sell. So, I mean, ASR is in a very difficult position. Number one, we are talking about a deal that the player doesn't want to accept. He wants to stay at Arsenal. He wants to fight his place. He thinks his future is at Arsenal Football Club. Then secondly, you have Fulham, who have made him their priority and their number one target. And I don't think a team makes you their number one target if your team is not selling, right? So you right now you cannot make Odegaard your number one target. You can't make Saliba your number one target. You cannot make Saka your number one target, because you know that Arsenal are not willing to sell these players. So the reason as to why Fulham have put ESR as number one on their list is because they know, they have information, ESR will be sold by Arsenal at the right price. Arsenal are not going to push ESR out of the door, but by just saying we are open to offers, that shows you and that tells you everything you need to know about Arsenal's position on ESR. So let's start off with Fulham. So Fulham are saying they're 100% convinced that they can get the deal done. They're not going to rest. They're not going to give up. Eventually, they will sign him. And however much I really, really don't want to, I don't want to feel that Fulham are, running a dry race. I kind of feel like eventually this is a deal Fulham can do. Now they've been given 56 million for Joao Palhinha by Bayern, and I think that actually boosts their money a lot. They have money to spend now. If they're going to spend around 36 to 40 million on Emil Smith-Rowe, it's even a much better deal. Joao Palhinha is 29. He goes for 56 million. Emil Smith-Rowe is 23. He's English. He comes in for 40 million. That is a ridiculously very, very good deal. So Fulham are saying they're going to approach Arsenal with a new offer of around 36 million, and they want to test the waters again. They want to see how deep Arsenal's commitment to the player is and how deep the player's commitment to Arsenal is. But at the moment, they don't want to take no for an answer from Emil Smith-Rowe. I think I've said this before and I said again. This is a deal that 100% depends on Arsenal, not Emil Smith-Rowe, and it also depends on the offer that comes in. So Emil Smith-Rowe knows that I don't think he's priority for Mikel Arteta, and he has fallen out of pecking order. He's fallen down the chain in terms of pecking order. And that what means is that whatever is going to be done, I don't think Arsenal look at him as a player that they want to keep against all odds, right? That's why we're linked with Eze. That's why we're linked with a new midfielder in that position. For Arsenal to know that if we are going to sell him, if we are going to get rid of him, we can go and get Eze, and he can do a good job or even a much better job. So if the offer is right, I don't think 36 million is right. I think that 36 million is low. But for a player that has not played in a very long time, 36 million for Arsenal, that is good. The reason why I wouldn't sell Emil Smith-Rowe is one or two reasons. One, I think if you give him a good season, you can get more money out of him. 50 million probably, or even 45. If Chelsea sold Omar Hutchinson for 22, you don't want to sell Emil Smith-Rowe for 20 million or 30 million. So you'd rather keep him for another year or probably 2 more years, and you see. If he improves, you can get good money. If he improves, you can reintegrate him in the side. The other thing that I think Arsenal can do in terms of this deal is trying to convince the player that going away from Arsenal is the best position and the best solution. Because for him, he sees Arsenal as his future. He sees Arsenal as the club that he loves, a club that he would love to play for all his life. But again, do we really know that he can play for Arsenal all his life? Not really. He might end up like an Edin Ketia, and his career goes down the drain, unused as a substitute, unused as a starter. For me, and looking at this from the Emil Smith Rowe point of view, he's got to go and find a club where he can be made king. He's got to go find a club where they can say, this is our guy. A club that can say, this is our man, this is our guy. We are going to stand by him and we're going to do whatever it takes to make him succeed. I don't think at Arsenal right now, we are willing to make him succeed. I don't think right now he is the king. I mean, Saka is the king. Odegaard is the king. Rice is the king. I think Mikel Arteta will die for so many players before dying for ESR. And I think that's what you don't want as a young player, because your career is in absolute jeopardy. Arsenal have now been rejected by 2 players from Spain in the same team. And that is Martin Zubimendi, and the latest one to reject us is Mikel Moreno, something like that. So Mikel Moreno is at Spain, and rumors came out a couple of weeks ago, actually, that Mikel Arteta had taken the initiative to pick up his phone and call Mikel Moreno to try and make him the replacement for Thomas Partey. The player has outrightly rejected Arsenal, and he has chosen to stay at Real Sociedad for another year or 2 years, depending on what he will choose, but he's not going to be joining Arsenal. Now, of course, when you think about Mikel Merino and you think about Martin Zubimendi, those are players that sound like Mikel Arteta players. When you see them play football, we've not seen Martin Zubimendi play for Spain. Again, there's Rodri there, and Mikel Merino starts ahead of him in terms of substitutions. But Moreno is one I would have liked if Arsenal were going to get in kind of an older player, someone like 28, 29. Mikel Moreno, if we didn't get Kimmich, he's one I would have liked. But also, I don't think Arsenal are really missing out on something big by not signing Mikel Moreno. I don't think he's world class. I don't think he's I don't think he wins us the league, honestly, right? I don't think he wins us the league. I don't think he's world class. I don't think Arsenal should be going crazy because Mikel Merino is actually not signing first, but he's staying at Sociedad, and that's the problem with Spanish players at times. If it's not Barca, if it's not Madrid, they would rather not move. If it was Barcelona wanting Mikel Merino, he would be at Barcelona right now. If it was Madrid, we would have a big chance of seeing him at Madrid than seeing him at Arsenal. So probably what these two players want and what they put across as reasons is they're comfortable at Real Sociedad and they feel at home in Spain and also in the Basque region. So that means that they don't want to actually destabilize their lives. So Arsenal can look elsewhere as Mikel Merino and also Martin Zubimendi will not be joining us this summer. Now, Saka shone brightest against Switzerland, and I think he had an answer for all the haters that were actually trolling him this whole tournament, but also ever since the last Euros when he missed the penalty for England against Gigi Donnarumma. He had an answer, scored a very, very, very bright cracker against Jan Sommer to get an equalizer for them. I think that was the 80-something minute. And then after that, he also scored his penalty, converted his penalty, I think it was the third penalty, to make sure that England have a 100% shootout. On the other side of the tournaments, Gabriel Martinelli also scored his penalty for Brazil, but they didn't manage to go through as Douglas Luiz missed his penalty, and Brazil were eliminated. So that means that Gabriel Magalhaes and Gabriel Martinelli will be back for Arsenal. They will get a rest, but they'll be back for Arsenal just in time to start the new season. I think it's only going to be England internationals. I think Raya doesn't play for Spain, so he can get a 1 week off and then come back to play football. It's going to be Saliba. It's going to be Rice and Saka that Arsenal are really most worried about. The rest of the players, I can see them start the season. I can see us, start our season very, very strongly. Maybe most of them will not be part of preseason. I see Saka, Rice, William Saliba, maybe Raya, all of them might not be part of preseason, and maybe Ramsdale. But come the 14th, 15th, and 16th of August, when the new season starts, they will be available for selection, and that is why it's beautiful to have players crash out of tournaments. Now, of course, it's hurtful, it's hurting, and you want them to progress. But when they progress, they play more minutes, and they are not ready. So those two are back. But I think for me, the spotlight is on Saka, because for me, Saka gets a lot of disrespect from England fans, especially England media. They 100% disrespect him. They 100%, always rate Cole Palmer. They rate Phil Foden ahead of him. And I think what he's just done for England in his recent run of games, he has just showed them, I'm your important player. I'm the important player in this side. It is not this lot that you actually put ahead of us all the time. So Saka has done a brilliant job. And I would love him to go to, he's in the semi-finals. They take on Netherlands. I would love him to have an impact on the Netherlands, who I think, by the way, are quality as well. And then if he goes up against Spain or France, I don't think England will beat France. I don't think England will beat Spain, but they've got a good run. Semi-finals is not bad. Everyone thought they would be in the semi-finals or the finals, and that's where they are. So at the moment, looks like Saka is winning.